Hey there, friends. Paul Glasgow here with Legally Armed America on somewhat of a rare Saturday night live stream. Typically, my live streams are going to be on a Friday night, or if there's some kind of a breaking, some kind of a rampage killing or something like that, typically I'll go live. And of course, sometimes we'll do our pin and shame videos, live streams on Sundays. However, I've got a very, very special guest, Carlo Marcello. If you've seen the video that I put out a few days ago, originally the video or at least I heard about this story from Mike over at Guns and Gear and reached out to Mike. Mike was kind enough to put me in touch with Carlo, and Carlo and I have visited quite a bit and exchanged a lot of information. And in a very high level nutshell, before I let Carlo explain in his own words what happened, Carlo was, I hate to use cliches like this, but kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was making a completely legal purchase from somebody who was under investigation. He did not know this, and he got kind of caught up in it. And it appears to me, and this is my opinion, that the ATF screwed up, and they're having a hard time accepting that they screwed up and giving this man his freedom back, if you will. And I'll let Carlo, I'm going to let you go ahead and roll into everything. Carlo is coming to us from Memphis, Tennessee. And that's all the information I want to give about you, because I mean, you have a family and all that. So you divulge whatever information, Carlo, you would like to share with the audience, and that is totally up to you.
Okay, hey, thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone. I'm Carlo Misello. The time this happened, it was August 2nd of this year. I was just trying to enjoy my terminal leave because I was getting ready to retire September 30th. And while I was en route to back home, I just contacted this store owner that I know. His name is Ferris, and just to pick up like a small part, just so I can finish up my build. So I went there. He said something about like there may be some people that he recognized, like watching over, like unmarked vehicle and all that stuff. But I didn't really pay much attention to it because like I've met several people before that was paranoid or something, right? And I mean, me, I'm not doing anything wrong. I was just there for a buffer tube, so I kind of dismiss it. When he changed his mind and all that stuff. But anyway, on my way out of there, I, I I popped my Tesla's front trunk, which I store all my stuff, so I don't have
Carlo,
to.
let
Yeah.
me cut you off 1 second. I do
Okay.
apologize. I wanted to make it very clear because
What?
you just mentioned it, but I want to make sure everyone is
Yeah.
clear. You were simply there to purchase a buffer tube. That's what I want to
Correct.
make clear. You weren't there to purchase a questionable item. You weren't there to purchase something like a force reset trigger, solvent trap, or anything crazy like that the ATF might deem as an illegal purchase by you. It was a buffer tube that you were there to purchase. I want to make sure that's very clear because that puts you at that location buying something that any of us can buy at Academy, big
Right.
box stores, or any local gun shops. I want that to be very clear.
Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, it was just like a regular transaction, nothing shady. And even if this guy was being watched by two people, I didn't think that 20 man deep of full tactical gear is going to storm in, right? I was thinking maybe they'll knock at the door, two people asking us what's going on, right? That's the worst case. But at this point, I already forgot what he talked about anyway. It didn't matter to me. And I figured if they were about to do something, they'll wait for me to leave, right? Uh, because they didn't know who I was. So, but as I was walking up to my Tesla's front trunk, I popped it open, and that's when they stormed in. Out of nowhere, about 20 agents, like five or six vehicles, just pulled up uh, real quick. So they just started yelling at us with long guns in my face, and I didn't know what was going on, and I didn't even know how to react. So obviously, I just tried to put my hands up. They put me in a handcuff, and that's that, right? Um, So I agreed. They put me in the vehicle. I agreed to make a statement simply because of I want to know what was going on. Right? It was clearly a mistake. So at this point, I was kind of um, frustrated. I was giving them attitude like, "What's this? Like this? You're inconveniencing me and all that stuff." But then I realized that my wife or my son could be watching me from the live view of the Tesla because they do that. I told them I'll be back by 2, but I'm not back yet, so they're probably wondering where I was at, right? So I just want to get the conversation over with. Yeah, I'm here to do this. okay, let me go. I'm out. You mistaken me for somebody else or whatever.
And look, excuse me, to that
Yeah,
point about the Tesla. For anybody that knows, because I don't drive a Tesla, your wife via her phone connecting to the Tesla, there's 360-degree cameras around the Tesla. So if she's wondering where you are, she can simply log into the Tesla account and see the live video as it's going on. So you're concerned with her potentially seeing all that and wondering what the heck is going on.
correct. Right. I'm more concerned about that because like I'd rather tell her what was up after everything is said and done. And I thought I was gonna be a 10-minute thing, right? Um, just clear something up because we had conversation between me and Ferris that I was there for a buffer tube. Like
And Ferris is the seller. Ferris is the store
yeah,
owner who was
it's the
selling you
store
the
owner,
buffer
right?
tube.
Yeah. So I told them what I was there for, and they trying to ask me if I was trying to sell my guns, which is only two complete guns in the front trunk, and that was a big misconception. People thought I had my whole arsenal in the vehicle. No, that's not the case. It's just like I have a lot of parts that are expensive. This is my hobby, obviously, uh, and they saw those. They like what they saw, I guess, because they were taking selfies and they were celebrating like we got this guy, right? We finally got this guy. We're heroes. While me, I'm looking at them. I'm like, man, that's a new vehicle. Don't touch it. They were touching it, and I was just like giving them attitude about it. Man. Yeah, don't touch my stuff. At this point, I thought I was still kind of in control of the situation, and I was, they're being cordial with me, obviously asking me if I ever sold Ferris a solvent trap. I was like, no, why would I do that? I mean, I don't even own a solvent trap at the time because I know they were the Form 1 is getting disapproved, right? So it's not even worth it. So I just have commercial suppressors. The funny thing is, the agents don't even know the difference because they're asking me if those were homemade or not. So I'm like, no, of course not. So after a couple hours of questioning, the story was corroborated because they checked Ferris's Facebook. I was there for a buffer tube, and the agent that I was mainly talking to, which was not the lead agent because he was just relaying the message to the lead agent, right? He said, "All right, we're just finishing up the paperwork, and you can be on your way." I thought I was done, and at this point, obviously, I was still uh, in an attitude like, "Yeah, you're inconveniencing me. You're gonna have to apologize for this kind of thing." Until I guess they didn't find anything interesting from Ferris's vehicle and store. So they asked me if they could check my vehicle, this time the inside of the Tesla vehicle. And I told them, no, I don't want you to because I don't want the live recording to get interrupted, right?
And does
And
that mean
that's,
that when the doors are open, the live recording on the outside of the vehicle stops?
I think so. The car was new at the time, but I just don't want anything that would potentially interrupt it.
Right.
But after I told the agent that, his demeanor was like all like like confident and like my buddy chewing gum and all that stuff. But after I told him that, he just kind of paused, walked away, told the lead agent about it. Then 15 minutes later, he told me that they're gonna take my stuff that was in the front trunk. And I'm like, those had nothing to do with the store owner that you said you were investigating. Those are my personal property, and I have paperwork to prove that I own all of those legally. Um, but they didn't care. He's just like, well, you agreed to make a statement, and it was in plain sight. And I asked them, like, show me the warrant, the search warrant, and they said we don't need it because it's plain sight. So they just took it. I mean, I'm in handcuffs. What can I do, right? So I
Yeah.
can't even do anything. I refused. I told them, no, don't touch it. Um, don't touch those. Those are my, I'm proud of those because it took a while for me to get and had to wait, especially for the suppressors. I already paid them the tax stamp, but they decided they'll take them anyway. At this point, I was just so frustrated. I didn't have the fear of endangering my life yet. I didn't, I was in shock, right? All I wanted to do was get my stuff back so I don't have to worry about it. So for 2 days, asking people help, what do I need to do? And someone had told me about go to the station, bring all your relevant paperwork, and when they give you the weapons back, make sure that they didn't damage it, because sometimes they would put the serial number on the actual firearm instead of a tag, right? So that's the reason why I got my GoPro going that day. It's because I thought they'll just give it to me and apologize. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And it's like, okay, my mistake. Sorry, this is your items back. And if there's any damage, I'll probably just like put a claim, a reimbursement. I thought that was it, but no. I learned from that conversation. You guys can see on Mike's video that they told me that they didn't know who I was. Uh, that I would just happen to be there when they come get the guy, which I find it hard to believe, because you don't mobilize 20 people for just one person, right?
No.
They thought I was somebody else, apparently. And they thought I was like the Memphis, I don't know, ringleader,
Yeah.
kingpin.
Right.
Um, and this is also the day I learned that they didn't have body camera. And the reason why that came up is because they said that I had an SBR in the vehicle, even though I didn't. And for me, like thinking, I think I'm thinking like, okay, so if you just watch the body cam, you'll see that there was no SBR there at the time of discovery. And this agent kept telling me that it was surrendered to him in an SBR format. That's why I cannot get him back. Um, and that's that. And then obviously, instead of me talking to the lead agent, I was talking to three guys, telling me about like, don't worry about it. We'll call you when it's ready. We're not taking them to the range or anything, playing with it and all that stuff.
Now, prior to
Uh,
this, had you ever spoken to or met the lead agent?
no, I spoke to the lead agent the day of the seizure, right? The August 2nd, because I tried calling her over and over and over, but she only picked up once, asked who I was, I guess maybe to save my number. And after that, I tried calling and calling. Obviously, this is like the first 48 hours, right? So calling, texting, email, all of that, nothing. And I mean, I don't know, I didn't feel comfortable sitting there waiting for something. You know what I mean? To me, after getting the weapon back and taking it back my possession would clear everything, and I can just
Mm-hmm.
move on with my life, right? And
Now, is that lead agent responsible for dispatching those 20 agents that went to that site? Like, in other
yes,
words, was she already involved with it? I assume
right.
to get those guys out to that location to investigate Ferris in the first place. So she was
Yes.
knowledgeable of what was happening.
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
she's the one. It's her case. So from I don't know from the start or if it was transfer over to her, but she was the main person responsible for the case.
Okay.
And yeah, so that was that. Confusion and all that. I contacted. And also I want to clear the misconception. Like it's easy to say to lawyer up. It is, but it's not that, because what the thing is, you need to find a lawyer that is interested enough to fight against the government, right? That's one thing. Second thing is, if you find one, they're gonna tell you how much money that I would need to spend to put them on retainer, but at the
Right.
same time, the ATF gave me an indefinite amount of time to where they could just all of a sudden like file a charge against me or something that I didn't do. You know what I mean? Um, so I did that. I contacted the senator, congressman, and all that. They weren't able to help me. They said it's because the case is still open. They couldn't do anything. Um, and I was at wit's end at this point. So I just kind of waited. Like I lived in fear. Obviously, I'm not sure if they're gonna show up to my house and kick doors in and all that stuff. I was scared, and because that happened to Ferris. They
Now,
went in
but
the store. Yeah.
before we talk about Ferris, did they ever give you any indication of what the conclusion would be? Like, we'll make a determination at this point. We might
No.
charge you at this point. We might let you go at this point. Or did they just leave you hanging and not say that they're going to determine anything?
they left me hanging, and I asked for a time frame. Give me a time frame, weeks, months, years, whatever, and they wouldn't even tell me that. So they basically just holding it over my head,
Mm-hmm.
so I can stop calling them or whatever.
Did
But
did the
at this,
did the
yeah,
guys in the video that, and I'm gonna upload your video, by the way, in its raw format, where
okay,
you were GoProing the guys at the ATF agency when you went up there. I'm gonna upload that just raw so that we can refer people to it if they want to watch just that video.
right.
But did those 3 guys, were they working for that lead agent, or were they reporting to a different agent?
They, I don't believe those are field agents. They're office workers, right?
Okay.
So they kind of know what was going on, but um, see, I'm not sure if Stacy was there when I arrived because I had to wait for a long time.
Stacy being the lead agent.
I'm sorry, yeah, the lead agent.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
That's okay.
Uh, so I guess I don't know if she didn't want to talk to me or whatever, but I had to wait there for a long time for those guys to just come out and said
Mhm.
the lead agent wasn't here, so we can't give you your items back. But it's gonna go to the AG and all that stuff, and they started talking about legal jargon that would, I guess, designed to intimidate me. Like I told them I didn't have SBI, I didn't have anything illegal, but they said, yeah, but that's up to this uh, attorney general or whoever. I don't remember what it was in Nashville, and if they find out that they got something, they'll press charges. You'll have a warrant. We'll come get you. That kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay. But yeah, they didn't give me anything indefinite. They just basically told me to wait
So
for
have they
indefinite amount
done,
of time.
is there any official document or, communication that you've received from them that where they state that you had an SBR? Is there anything in writing where they're claiming that you actually had a fully functional SBR?
No, no,
This is
not
just
at a
those
time.
guys telling you that in conversation.
Yes.
Wow.
Um, they showed. I mean, the only documentation I have at the time was the receipt that they gave me, and that's not even listing nothing. There's barely anything on there.
Well,
They only
there's
listed
no SBR listed on there.
right.
I
There's
mean,
nothing.
their own paperwork doesn't show an SBR
Yeah,
listed.
it says a stoner rifle, which was in there. Like the 16-inch Knight's armament, the serial number for that, the serial number for the
Right.
surefire suppressor, the BNT pistol APC 9K, the serial number for that, and the serial number for the silencer co
Hmm.
uh, suppressor.
Right.
Yeah. So at that point, I was at wit's end. My lawyer told me that instead of me paying them retainer, let's just wait because we don't want to piss them off. They'll make it personal. They're a shady agency. So if they know that I'm trying to file a lawsuit or a charge against them or whatever, they'll just gonna hang it over my head, and they'll it piss them off and they will press charges or something. So let's just wait and see what happens. So I'm not paying for um, the retainer because I don't even
Mhm.
have a charge. So,
Yeah.
but me, that prevents me from doing anything really. Like
Well,
I
yeah,
just
it
stayed at
does.
home.
In fact,
Yeah.
I'd like to move on to, leave names out if you would, but I'd like to move on to your family, your wife and your little boy. Explain some of the ramifications of this and how that's impacting your personal or your home life.
Okay. So the fact that I was so worried more about them watching it on a live cam, right? That could have been traumatic, right? I wanted to avoid that, but yes, now they live in fear with me, and my son had a few outbursts at school, uh, and he's just scared. Sometimes we find something that in his bedroom, like that he could use just in case someone kicks the door in or something like
For
that.
protection you're talking about?
Yeah, like knives or something. Like I mean, I want to reassure him that it's okay. And one side note here, uh, my son actually were looking up and wanted to be law enforcement when he grows up. But after finding out that this could happen to an innocent person like myself, he just hated them more than I do. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Wow.
Because that he couldn't believe that a decent human being can do that to somebody that, uh, like not doing anything, but at the time I was so naive and I thought the same.
Yeah.
I trusted the system, and I thought that as long as we have an honest justice system, I'll prove to them that I didn't do anything wrong, and they'll just, I guess, apologize or just like let me go, right? Or
Hmm.
drop me off the charge or whatever. But no, that instead they continued to torment me and threaten me.
And speaking of those threats, when you finally did get in touch with the lead agent, she actually threatened you with charges if you didn't stop calling her, right?
Yes, correct.
Explain that a little bit.
So when I got back from my sister's, I had to go to her sister, to my sister's, because she got murdered and all that stuff. I had to drive to Washington and back. When I got back, I tried reaching out because I just couldn't take it anymore. There's so much things going on, and I wanted to get that ATF deal, get it over with. Just let's get this settled, put it behind us, and move on, right? So I tried to call her. She picked up, and she asked who I was, right? I guess she forgot. I don't know. And I told him about the asking about Ferris's case, and she told me that you stop blowing her phone up, right? She told me if I don't stop calling, that I don't even have charges, but if I don't stop calling or if I keep it up, that could change. So she basically threatened me with a charge. And I thought at this point I could use like my situation. I just got back from my sister. There was a home invasion. Three armed men
Hmm.
invaded her home, allegedly, and she tried to protect herself, but she was outgunned. So,
Yeah.
and my thinking is that she would understand that I want my best weapons for home defense,
Right.
because it's something that I can afford or and all that. But
Yeah.
then she started to be condescending and said that I don't know who you expect that would break into your house, but you don't need that. Basically implying that was a overkill, right?
Yeah. Let me explain to you in my simple mind. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but this is kind of how I see things like this. By her threatening you with a charge if you didn't stop calling her. Now I'm thinking out loud here, so give me a second to put my words into thoughts
Yeah,
or my thoughts into words. Okay, that alone is the ATF's admission that they will fake a charge
right,
and they can fake a charge if they need to. Because if they had reasonable grounds to charge you, you would have already had charges against you.
right,
So she knew that they didn't have any legitimate charges because they had not charged you. But she was admitting to you by saying they would put a charge on you. That's her admission that that agency is willing to fake a charge if they feel like they need to. Because
right.
again, she would have charged you if she had something to charge you with. She was willing to make something up to shut you up. That's a failure in every way of our system, in every
Yeah,
single conceivable way.
right. And at that point, like I'm thinking, man, they're really threatening me now. Now I can't even have what I want at my home because they think that I don't need it or
Right.
overkill or whatever.
Right.
Um, so I just every day I wake up, check the Shelby County warrant system to make sure I'm not on there. I also check for Ferris just in case, like um, I don't know because like I want to know if that's the day they're gonna come to my door.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk about Ferris for a minute. You were going to talk about him
Okay.
a while ago, but I'd like to go into a little bit more detail on Ferris is the guy who owned the business,
Hmm.
who they were actually investigating, the guy who was truly their target. They may have been looking for the quote kingpin, thinking that might have been you, but Ferris was the reason why they were there. And you happen to get caught up in that. Explain a little bit about what's transpired with him. I've actually been in communication with him
Oh,
electronically.
okay.
I have not spoken with him, so I don't have the level of detail that you do. Can you explain what's happened to him since all of this took place in August?
You mean afterwards?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as far as I know, they raided his house while his family was in there,
Hmm.
um, and he's still going through the charges right now. Like, there's so many charges that are so shady, right? Like he's getting charged for a binary trigger as a machine gun. So they're basically just like, it looks like it's fabricated stuff because they couldn't find anything from this guy.
And they
But
list they list it as a binary trigger,
yeah, binary
but
Franklin Armory
binary
binary.
triggers, but they're
I
not
know.
considered machine guns
I have
according to
one
the
in my
ATF.
I have one in my safe right now, so I
Now watch
guess
it, watch it.
yeah, right.
I
um,
mean, look, that if they're making stuff up, they obviously are willing to do that.
but so Ferris, what they did is they took a lot of stuff from his store, right? Mostly gun parts. So they took a lot of stuff, like a lot more than mine.
Well,
Um,
his communication that he sent me said just in gun accessories was $10,000 worth of accessories, not including any firearms.
right. He showed me the pictures of what they left over. Basically, they leave the cases for the guns, and they took the guns from the inside. I don't
That's
know
what
if
he
you
was
saw.
saying. Excuse me, not to cut you off. He
Yeah, go
he
ahead.
he said in his communication that um, they basically robbed him of merchandise, and I don't know if this is just a way to make it look like it's something that they had to confiscate versus a brand new part that might have been for sale in a retail store. But he said they unboxed the things that they were taking and
Yeah,
left the boxes there and took the items themselves. So you know
they
where
did.
that's going, right? I mean,
Right.
that
Yeah.
that will never be found again. That's goes in
Yes.
somebody's car on the way home.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, basically they basically ruined his life because he couldn't conduct business anymore. He didn't have the register. They took that,
Hmm.
um, and had no income. So I guess he got evicted from the house at the store. Um, yep. And well,
He got
yeah.
evicted because he couldn't pay his bills because his
Right.
store was he had no
Hmm.
source of income anymore.
Correct. Yeah. So he got it worse than me. But that's the thing. Like we shouldn't have to deal with that if we're not doing
No, no, no,
anything
no.
wrong.
Can you talk at all about and I'm going to be careful about how I word this so in case you can't talk about this, but can you talk at all about um the timeline of when charges were pressed and when the um, raid or whatever you want to call it took place. You had sent me a message regarding when charges were actually when a judge actually signed a warrant and things like it was a warrant, not charges. When the
Yeah.
judge actually signed the warrant, can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so Ferris is gonna give you this more of a detail, but
Mm,
so the day after, I wanted to find out what happened to him, right? Since we didn't have the day of the incident, the
mhm.
raid, we didn't have any communication, obviously, because he was held up overnight or something, somewhere. But when I finally got a hold of him, this was like the first or second night. Uh, he told me that the guys didn't even have the warrant until the morning of. And I don't know if he meant that the warrant was handed over to them or if it was signed that morning. So I don't know.
The
So
morning of y'all's discussion.
no, the morning of the 3rd of August, which is the day
Okay,
after the incident. Yeah.
what's
So
I'm saying is so he's implying that the way you understood it
right.
that the warrant was obtained the day after the actual raid.
Yes. The morning, the day August 3rd, the morning of August 3rd,
So they
basically.
never showed him a warrant whenever they went there and searched
No,
his entire place?
no, they didn't. They
Wow.
were supposed to leave it at the door also, according to him, but they went inside the store real quick. I guess it was bugged, right? Because they went in there and spent 5 minutes and came out
Hmm.
in the store. His stores was already stripped from like those guys because they took all his guns. So I guess there's nothing more of an interest in there.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that they didn't find anything in his vehicle, and that's when they decided to take my stuff. And I didn't realize this until someone told me. I think my wife told me that they took my stuff so they can bring back something to the station, right?
Mhm.
Instead of like admitting they made a mistake,
Yeah.
they didn't have anything or something. At least they can bring something back and just answer a question later, I guess. I don't know.
Well, look, knowing how law enforcement is going to work, somebody had to come up with a reason to assemble 20 men
Yeah,
to get those 20
right.
resources together, the 5 vehicles it looks like they arrived in, to have them with their firearms, the ammunition, all that. Somebody had to either a requisition or something
Yeah,
had to have been approved and rubber stamped for a legitimate reason in their
right.
eyes, not our eyes, but for a legitimate reason to assemble a 20-man team to go out there and make a bust or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't come back empty handed after you've
Right.
made your case to justify 20 people going out. You come back
Mhm.
empty handed, and the person who made that case is going to be looked at and say, well, I thought we had something here. So I think you're exactly right. I think the reason
Mhm.
why they have to come back is they can't go back empty handed. And clearly, it doesn't sound like they had anything from Ferris at the time.
Right. And they didn't imply or anything that they would take my stuff from the beginning. It's only after I refused for them to check my vehicle,
Right.
and also after the fact that they tore this man's vehicle apart, they didn't find anything.
Hmm.
So they just decided that they'll take my stuff all like the 2.5 hours after I was handcuffed. You know what I mean?
Well, like I had mentioned in my last video, and you and I talked about it, I truly believe that these guys, at some point during that 2 hours that they were questioning you two guys, at first they probably thought you're the guy.
Yeah.
But I'd be willing to bet they have access to every single kind of thing to check your background. And between the Navy, 20-year veteran, no criminal record that you have or anything like that, they probably realized while they were on site, oh crap, we don't have squat with this guy. This guy is squeaky clean. He's not the guy clearly that we're looking for. So what do we do now? And at that point, they had to figure out, what do we do? How do we save face on this? And it sounds like they're probably telling their superiors that they think they might have something on you, because I would be willing to bet that anybody at the top would be like, man, y'all need to leave this guy alone. I mean, really, when you have nothing, it's one thing
Right.
when you have a little bit of smoke, there might be a fire there. There's no
Yeah.
smoke.
Right.
They don't have anything on
Exactly.
you. Like they're literally wasting resources, even talking to you. Like
Yeah.
that's a waste of time, because that's a dead end talking to you.
Right.
So I think it's an ego thing that these people can't let it go because they screwed up so royally. Those 20 people that got commissioned to go out that day to do whatever they did was a complete and absolute total waste of taxpayer money, which, I mean, isn't the existence of the ATF a total waste of our taxpayer money? But nevertheless, there's a big price tag for that day that took place, and
Mhm.
somebody is not willing to admit they screwed up and made a mistake.
Yeah. And now you mentioning that, it was a lot worse than I thought it was after learning more information about that raid, right?
Right.
Um, the and the fact that the agent told me at before the 2 hour mark that they're gonna let me go and just finishing up the paperwork, and all
Hmm.
of a sudden they'll take uh my items, right? Isn't That's like a red flag to me,
Yeah.
like, why now, right? Why
Yeah.
didn't you take it from the beginning?
That's right. That's just like our conversation about the charges a while ago. If you had anything on me, you already knew you were going to take the firearms from me. If
Right.
they had anything, if the reason why they hadn't taken them yet is because they didn't have a reason to. They were just
Right.
pissed off. They were mad at you. So that's why they changed their mind on that.
Hmm.
They didn't have reason to take it.
Yeah,
But
I even
because
asked,
nobody Go ahead, I'm
is it
sorry.
because I refuse to get my vehicle searched? Is that why you're taking that? And it's like,
That's right.
no, it's plain sight. That's what he told me. Plain
Now,
sight.
then why didn't you take them all 2 hours ago
Right,
when
right,
you saw them
right.
the first time? You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah,
The problem is they can do anything they want to at this point because there's nobody overseeing them that has any unbiased approach to them. They're all so anti-gun and so eaten up with it
right,
that they probably hate the fact that you are an honest, law-abiding American that hasn't committed a crime, because you're the kind of person that makes them look like we don't need them. So you're the anti-ATF. You're the kind of person that they don't want. They want people breaking laws out there. They have to justify their existence, right? I mean,
right.
that's how they create half the crap that they
Yeah,
do to justify why they're even in existence.
right.
Look, I want to move on to. I know a lot of people are wondering the same thing, and explain to me the list of people who you've tried to reach out to so far, politicians and whatnot. Explain who all you've tried to speak to, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, you need to talk to your congressman, you need to talk to your senator.
Yeah,
Well, you've tried, so
I
explain a
have.
little bit about that.
Okay, so first I try to contact the Representative Rusty Grills. It's concerning the HB 2509.
Now, that's a
That's the
state representative, or is that a
state
federal?
representative.
State, okay, in
For
Tennessee.
first, because, like, okay, if they're gonna try to put some made up SBR charge, didn't Tennessee pass HB 2509, House Bill 2509, early this year, which was I think in July, so it was before that incident. And which stated that they're taking the SPR and SBS off a list of prohibited items.
Mhm.
I don't need that, but I just wanted that to
Right.
be in my back of my pocket just in
Yeah.
case, right? But they responded. They couldn't do anything, so I was advised to contact the congressman Kostov.
Okay.
I did that. So I also contacted Senator Marshall Blackburn, I think.
Okay.
Um, I got a response after, I'd say, a month from the governor. Somebody from DC called me and they told me that they're assigning a caseworker for that to, maybe liaise with the ATF, and that kind of gives me hope. That kind of gave me hope, right? But when I talked to that caseworker, she said that there's nothing they could do because it's an open case. That's it. That's all they could do for me. I also contacted Department of Homeland Security, uh, DOJ, even though I know they're above ATF. Anybody, I did. I
Yeah.
also contacted JAG because I was still active duty at the time,
Okay.
and they really couldn't help me. I guess my story wasn't interesting enough at the time. So
Well, unfortunately, I think that it probably wasn't popular enough because it's like I
right,
explained to you on the phone the other day. These politicians only care about getting reelected. They don't really care about you. I mean, I'm sorry, they don't care about me either. So they don't care about anybody. As long as if there's something you can do to either help them get reelected or something that they can eliminate from hurting them getting reelected, that's when they begin to care. So I
hmm,
think by you trying to get your story out there, that makes this a little bit more heightened in the public eye. And at some point, the right person will get in a hold of this story because to me, it's an intriguing enough story, an important enough story that at some point, somebody much bigger than myself and Mike over at Mr. Guns and Gear will get a hold of this and put it out there. And the right person, that's when those people will care. Unfortunately, that's when they'll care. They don't care right now.
no,
But I think at some point they will care because this is a different type of story. We've been watching ATF overreach for quite some time now, and this is at a different level. This is at a whole new level of overreach from
right.
them.
See,
And this is like a cocky overreach. Like they're trying to show you that they can do whatever they want.
the thing is, like, if you tell me this story without any video proof, I wouldn't believe you,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
Because it's just too out there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep. No, I
And
totally agree with that. I think that that's a great point. If you provided so much proof, had you not done that, I might not have been willing. I probably would have put a 3-minute video out saying this is a lot of alleged stuff that took place, but I have seen enough proof to know that something stinks.
right,
You know what I
and and
mean?
and I don't blame you for that because I didn't believe that he was being watched by the ATF because to me that was an outrageous claim.
Right, right.
So I mean, you can call me naive, but that's what it was. Uh, so that was my last resort, putting the story out there. I tried
Mhm.
everything. At one point, it was already taking its toll that I was already on edge. I couldn't sleep. Sometimes I'd be up for 4 days straight and just pass out from exhaustion. And when
Mhm.
that happened, I get nightmares anyway, right? Like
Mm.
someone's coming for me or something, or my
Yeah.
family. And I even wanted to tell them that, hey, you can keep the stuff. Give me something that would, on writing, telling me that they're not gonna have any charges on me based on the stuff that they took.
Yeah.
Just so I can just like resume my life.
You were allowing them to extort you, basically is what you were doing.
But yeah, right. But the problem with that is I couldn't even get a hold of anybody to
Right,
tell that
right.
because every time I tried, they just threatened me. So I was just at wit's end, and I was like, I have to make this public,
Mhm.
and I didn't. What pushed me over the edge was when Mike made that video about the other sailor that got basically a similar situation. They
Right,
they fabricate charges on him and all that. I'm like, okay, it's not just me. Maybe
right,
maybe if I tell Mike, he would believe me if I prove enough evidence, right?
right.
And that's exactly what happened. So I'm glad that he covered it and you covered it. So now at least I have a voice.
Have you have you contacted and spoken directly with your local sheriff, not the sheriff's department, but the
Yeah,
actual sheriff? Have you spoken with them?
right. I forgot about that. Yes, I contacted them the
Okay.
week of. I contacted everybody that I could, like even
Okay.
the county where it happened, which is
Yep.
Shelby County. I contacted Tipton County also to.
Do you have a pro Second Amendment sheriff in that county?
I am not sure, but I talked to him and they said that they can't do anything because it's a different
Well, no, that's not why
county.
I'm asking that question.
Oh,
First
okay.
of all, I would find out if he was pro Second Amendment, what his stance is on the Second Amendment,
Right.
true stance, not just what he may have said or what his campaign
Yeah.
website has said. And if he is pro Second Amendment, regardless, this is what I would do. And I'm just trying to give you some friendly advice. I would let them know that if I'm visited again by the ATF, I will not allow them inside my house until you people are on my property.
Yeah.
I would not speak to another person from the ATF. I wouldn't definitely don't allow them in your house.
Right.
But if they try to corner you in your driveway or something like that, I would simply let them know that I'm not speaking to anybody, which I wouldn't speak to the ATF anyway. I mean, your attorney will advise you to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly wouldn't have any kind of communication with them unless there is a sheriff's department deputy on site with an active body cam recording every single thing, because they are clearly trying to get away with something. And
Right.
they need to know that. I mean, you
Yeah.
probably want to let the ATF know, since they don't want to return your call. I'm sure you have an active email address that you can send something to and let them know, look, I've notified my local sheriff's department and my attorney that if you guys decide to come over here again, you may want to give me a heads up, because I won't be communicating in any kind of way or interacting with you guys unless I have those people on site. That's just some friendly advice I'd like to give you, because
Thank you.
I've often
Right.
thought about that if something were to ever happen to me, I will be as politely and compliant as I can, and just politely tell them, you're going to have to wait until deputies are here before you do anything. And I think you need to do that. So, I mean, don't put yourself in danger, your family, or anything like that. I'm not telling you to take off running into the woods or whatever. I'm just saying, be smart about it, because, I mean, you do have a family to protect.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That was one of the things, because right now I can't even go outside without having another eye, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm
Mhm.
live streaming when I go to the store. Can you believe that?
Good.
Or because like, what if they are capable of fabricating that stuff, even though I have evidence that I didn't do it? I mean, what could they be capable of?
You
And
have
if we stay
every reason. I'm sorry to cut you off. You
right,
have
go
every
ahead.
reason to distrust them. You
Hmm.
have more proof of how crooked they are than most of us do, because you've seen it firsthand.
Right. I'll be in a store or IKEA, for example, and if I'm there for like a good amount of time, like half an hour, I look outside to make sure nobody's mobilizing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Call that paranoid. That was the exact opposite of me
Right.
before this happened.
I'll tell you what I'd be willing to do, and I wrote this down earlier, but somebody just made a comment for you to buy one. I was going to offer that I'd be willing to send you a body cam if you would use it, and just put your SIM
Oh yeah,
card in there and change your SIM cards out. Keep a stack of, I don't
right.
know, 10 SIM cards that maybe you're rotating through. If nothing happens, then grab the next one or whatever. But
Yeah,
I mean, you'd be surprised. You may see something in the background or whatever. I'd be willing to send you a body cam. I can get my hands on a body
awesome.
cam and
Yeah,
send you one.
that'll help.
I would love to see you using that, and just let it be known. I mean, look, they're most likely monitoring your Facebook anyway. Put some
Hmm.
nice, pretty selfies of yourself up there with you and your body cam, and that
Right.
mentioning that your body cam is always rolling whenever you're outside your home. Let them know I am
Yeah,
recording everything.
yeah. I'm
Uh,
recording everything. That was my thing, because like I couldn't trust them, and
right.
that was that. It's just
Tell me a little
they
bit about it. I want to make this point too, because I mean, as an American person, I don't want people. I know I have a lot of Filipino friends. I'm friends with the folks at Arms Corps and Rock Island Armory, and they're domiciled out of Philippines. I just happen to have a lot of friends in that area. And you were a natural born Filipino. You came
yeah,
here when you were 19 years old, joined the Navy, became an American citizen, and pretty much all of your adult life, you have been an American,
yeah,
relatively
correct.
speaking. I mean, 19 years old, you came over here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not going to use this word because I don't think that's accurate, but you've used the word as being naive. I
Hmm.
don't think it's necessarily naive. I think it's more that you hoped everything was as good as it should be at
Yeah.
that level. You hoped law enforcement was doing law enforcement,
Right.
not spying, not corruption, things like that. And you were taught that those things are not accurate. And it's embarrassing to me as an American. Again, I know you're American, but you're an immigrated Filipino. It's embarrassing to me that you came over here for obviously a better life, right? You didn't come over here
Yeah.
for a worse life. You came over here for a better life. And it's
Right.
embarrassing to me that you have to discover this in this kind of way, and it's always been like that. I take that back. It hasn't always been like that. The ATF has progressively gotten worse over time, and unfortunately, you're seeing at the peak of its corruption. And as an American, and my family's been in this country for many, many years, many decades and generations, it's embarrassing to me. It honestly is for you to see that. I just wonder what your family thinks back at home. You know what I mean? Your Filipino family back
Yeah.
home. I don't know how much of this you've told them, and I don't care. I'm not asking you to say, but as an American, it really bothers me because I see this and I'm like, man, he thinks that we're living in some third world. I mean, this is what Africa is known for. Africa is
Right.
the most corrupt continent in the entire world because every single country is pretty much corrupt from the
Mhm.
top down. And now it looks like we're becoming just as corrupt as some of these other nations are. At least we could do it before and get away with it and make it look good. Now they can't even make it look good. They're sloppy with it to where now it rolls out and people like you are discovering that. And that's embarrassing to me that you that you had to experience this.
Right. I mean, it's different if I was expecting something like that, like for example, where I was from, Philippines is the third world country. I'm not saying that they're corrupt, but it's more of a, you kind of expecting it.
Yeah.
Like, if I can get away with this with some kind of bribery, so be it, right? Something like that. But
Yeah.
no, here I completely trusted the system here, and
Right.
look where it got me, right?
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I didn't really want to voice this out because it takes a lot of pride for me to do so.
Yeah.
I always wanted uh, to imply that I was making the best decision for myself and for my family. Um, but I didn't think that
Yeah.
this would all happen because of a buffer tube.
Let me ask you
That's kind
this.
of embarrassing, you know what I mean?
Now that we're at this point now where everything that's taken, and it looks like it's going nowhere.
Right.
It looks like they just intend to hold this over you, make you scared, let you live in fear, so that you never do what you're doing now, which is speaking up. So who knows what they're going to say? And you may be doing the right thing right now to where they're just going to completely leave you alone. But what do you expect from here? Like, what is your goal? What's
Well,
your next step? I guess.
so my next step is, my lawyer is still, doing the research and all that stuff because of, it's different when, what happened before and what happened after it went public. I'm not very articulate when I talk, so, uh, me explaining it to a lawyer is probably not as interesting. It's just like, yeah, just call us whenever if they show up or if you have any charges and all that stuff.
You don't have to
But
be Edgar Allan Poe to have a reason to speak out
right,
when you have something like this that's happened to you, and I think you speak just fine. So don't discount
okay,
yourself on that.
thank you. So my point, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna be lying if I say I'm not afraid of any retaliation, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I mean, this person, the lead agent that was treating me like a criminal, was the one that was. I mean, well, after all, I was told after a while that uh, the character is not really, a good type of character. I don't know. You explained it well on the video that she kept getting in trouble, but instead of paying for it, she just get transferred and all that stuff.
it's
So
federal government. Federal government doesn't demote anybody; they
right,
promote. The worst you do, they will relocate you in another place just to get you out of the way because you're such a screw up. But it's never a demotion. Never is.
right. Um, so I guess, like, even though I have a criminal defense lawyer, I don't have a civil suit lawyer. And at the time, I wasn't even considering that. But they really did ruin my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is what I work up here for, and uh, also what I plan to do after I retire is to draw uh, artwork. But
Right.
they hurt my hand, so I can't even do that.
Okay.
Um, and at this point, I guess my first priority is just to get this potential charge off of me. So someone made a good point. I don't know if I could. So if anybody's watching there that could give me an advice, I'm also obviously going to consult my lawyer. If I file an armed robbery, right, then that means that I didn't have those. I'm no longer in the possession of those items since August 2nd, so they cannot charge me with anything. Correct? I don't know. Right?
I
Is that
mean,
Yeah,
Or-
because I just
Well,
want to get it over with them. So
I mean, I look at it this way. If they weren't dealing with you in an official capacity because they didn't have anything on you and they still don't have anything on you, yet they took your items and they were armed, sounds like armed robbery to
yeah,
me. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is even if they had a warrant for a particular guy and they decided to rob a 7-Eleven on the way back to the station, that's still armed robbery, right? It doesn't
right,
matter that they were
correct.
out on official capacity. I'm
Yeah,
sure they have some small print that covers them, but nevertheless, I'm no attorney, so I'm the wrong person to be giving you advice. But I
yes,
would
right. I don't know.
absolutely, I would ask an attorney because they weren't there for you, and they still took your stuff, and you weren't guilty. That is theft, and that's why I'm not ashamed to put on all my videos about this that this is theft. I use the word theft. I use the word stolen because there's no other way to describe what took place. They had no probable cause to do anything with you, yet they still left with your stuff, admittedly. And the guy's in the video. Again, for those of you that are watching, I will upload his video of his visit to the station. When was that? When would you say that was? After the
Uh,
event took place, August the 2nd,
that was August 4th,
August
two
4th. So
days
2 days
later.
later.
Hmm.
I'll upload your raw video so people can see the conversation that took place. These guys say in the video that they don't have anything on you. They didn't know who you were. And all they literally admit that in that video. So they have representatives of the ATF telling you these things, yet they still have your stuff. That's theft.
Yeah,
I don't know how
I
else
know.
you describe that. That is the definition of it. If you were to describe what took place and not use the word ATF, people would say you were stolen. In other words, if somebody
Mhm.
said 20 guys with guns came up to you, took your guns, they didn't have any reason to take them, and they left with them, people would say, "Oh, they stole, they robbed you."
Yeah, right.
You know?
So I was being reasonable also. So like, if you're saying that you have a potential SBR charge on me, what about the other items, right? Give it to me so I can at least have those. No.
No, they'd never
So
do that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So right, they don't
I,
want to give it back.
I'm curious. I've had a lot of people ask on the last video, and some people in the stream here. Do you have like a legal defense fund or something like that? Like a not a GoFundMe. I hope you're not using GoFundMe because they're very anti-gun and they'll likely
Oh,
keep your money. But do you have a way that people can contribute to try to help you pay for your legal defense team?
yeah. Yeah. I set up a Give Send Go. I
Okay.
can send you the link if you like,
If
but
you'll
that
send
would
that
really
to
help.
me, I'll put that in
Yeah.
the description of this video once we get off of here so people can
Right.
see it. And I'll also pin it as one of the top comments in case people want to go help you out. I'll obviously help out, but I mean anybody
Thank
that
you.
has
Appreciate it.
asked if they could. I mean, people have
Right.
asked me if we need to set something up for you. And I'm like, no, I think he has something. I just don't know the details of it just
Mm,
yet.
thank you. Well, here's another misconception. People are saying if I drive a Tesla and I have $20,000 worth of property that was in there, that I could afford legal funds, right? That is true, but they also broke my hand and ruined my plan to become a full-blown artist after I retire. So, not only that I'm not getting the salary from the Navy, I'm also not getting any income because of uh, I can't draw right now. Or I mean, I could draw with my left hand, with my other hand, but that don't give me confidence to take a high-profile commission. Just it'll give me anxiety and stuff because I'm not as good at drawing with my left hand,
Yeah.
uh, the hand that still works.
Well, I mean, as a gun guy, not all of us can shoot as good left-handed as we can right-handed or vice
Right.
versa.
You're right, exactly. So that was a misconception. Yes,
Yeah.
I have nice things, and apparently I couldn't even have them, even if purchase them legally.
Well, in my
So
opinion, I don't look at things like that. I feel like regardless of what, if you obtained the things you have in a legal capacity, it doesn't matter what you had on you. It
right.
doesn't make
Yes.
any difference. I don't care if you had $100,000 worth of stuff. That's your
Hmm.
stuff that you worked for, you bought
Right.
legally, you possessed legally, and you were traveling with it legally. So I don't care. I
Yeah.
mean, if anybody had, oh, it has $20,000 worth of, look, we
Yeah.
all we all have $20,000 worth of something that means something to us.
Right.
So I don't think you have to defend yourself for having, really nice stuff. I mean, look, we're all gun guys. I mean, I'd be
Yeah.
willing to bet plenty of our wives would say that the
Yeah.
things we have are not necessary for the money we've spent on them.
Right. Well, if anything, if there's a consolation, like the reason why I obtain the money on the side, like when I take commission and all that stuff, is because of something I want. You know, So I want to buy something, so I will try to make money, so I'm not dipping into our savings, and it gives me motivation. So it's
Yeah.
basically it's there because I worked for it,
Right.
and I decided to make that money for
Right.
that particular thing. So
And I explained
yeah,
in more detail on that previous video that I uploaded a couple days ago, and actually show some examples of some of your artwork. You while you were in the Navy, your
yeah,
side hustle was
right,
doing artwork for video games and apps and things like that, and you were making
yeah,
pretty decent money doing that.
right. Uh, yes, I would do that, and I'm setting this up to where I could retire. That I have a big network that could send me to the right direction, and all that stuff. Because
Mhm.
when I was active duty, I was prohibited on taking um, like long contract type of work, right? Because I can't be doing that, doing two jobs in contract. No,
Yeah.
but I set myself up to where I could after I
Right.
retire.
And what was your
So
official capacity with the Navy? What
I'm
did you
sorry.
do? What was your job role with the Navy?
Oh, I'm a logistics specialist.
Okay.
It's basically supply.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Right.
Well, I guess you're continuing to supply the government with stuff, right? In this case, it just happens to be the
Right?
ATF.
Yeah. Hmm.
Well, look, anything else you want to add before we get out of here? I think I've got a lot of people who have been watching here tonight, and I certainly appreciate that. And I know you do as well. But anything you would like to add that we may not have gone over by now?
Well, guys, like if you know anybody that can spread the word, that's all I'm asking, really, because that really what gave me voice. Before nobody really wanted to hear me out. I try to contact everybody. Like I know I've seen in a lot of comments saying you should contact this, but that's easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
But the more people that knows, the more influence that it will have to the populace, I guess.
Okay.
And so that way, like I don't know what's going to happen to those agents, or if they even going to do anything, but um, that's it. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know what else to say.
Well, you've
But I
you've got
appreciate the support. I mean, I didn't expect this overwhelming support from the community.
yeah.
So that was like heartwarming to me, and it gives me this confidence and this strength to just keep pushing. Um,
Well, people who are true representatives and good representatives of the United States are the ones who do
yes,
back you because they see how our Constitution is written and how things should be. This is not how it should be.
right.
This is not a good representation of our country, although it does right now represent how our country thinks and acts. It's not an accurate representation of how our forefathers expected things to be. And I think there's a lot of very good people, more specifically in the gun community, who are good people. The gun community is littered with very good, genuinely wholesome people.
Right.
And I think you're probably seeing that right now with an outpouring of support for you.
Oh yes, yes. I appreciate the support. Um,
Yeah.
and all the donation help because now I'm able to afford a lawyer on retainer,
Yeah.
which give me more of you know, a peace of mind, I guess. A little bit of peace of mind helps. Everything
Yeah.
helps at this point because
I would like to challenge you with something real quick, if I could. And I think this is what makes um, people are very uneasy about contributing to various causes because they don't know where the money will end up. And you and I have not talked about this, but I'd like to throw a challenge out there to you. If you can be thinking about what kind of charity or cause, I'd like to think it would be a pro Second Amendment community or cause or whatever, but I'm not trying to ask you to do that. Um, if the ATF gives you official notice that there's no charges and they're going to leave you alone, and you do have a fund of money that's out there that you didn't have to spend, I would encourage you in some kind of way to make a donation to a charity that's going to
oh
help you.
yes,
Maybe in some kind of a way that you're going to be able to say these are the people who backed me, so
yeah,
I would like to see them taken care of.
yeah,
I'm going to be greedy here and tell you, Gun Owners of America is a great
DOA,
organization,
yeah.
and that would be a good one right there. But again, I don't want you to take that as me trying to coerce you. You do whatever
No,
you
no, no,
want,
no.
but I think
I
that
believe in paying it forward, right? I believe that the communities lend their hand to support me, and after all this is said and done, obviously, if that fund would go to someone else that needs it,
right.
or
Yeah.
an organization that's helping me with this stuff. So,
Yep. Yep.
you know,
Exactly. Well, I'll make a contribution if you will. You've got all my contact information. Once we get off of here, it'll take me a minute because all this video has to get compressed and do all whatever the videos do whenever you do a live stream. But if you'll text me over the link to where your defense fund collection place is, I'll post that in the video once the video is available to people online, and anybody that wants to contribute can.
Thank you so much, Paul. Appreciate your help.
Carlo, good talking to you. And look, I would any updates. I will be in Washington, D.C. next week, but any updates that you have, shoot me a text, whatever. If I have to, I'll step out and I'll do a 2-minute update or whatever about what's transpired or what's taken place. But please keep us in a timely loop as things progress, if you don't mind.
Will do. Thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate your help.
Absolutely. Good talking to you, and we'll be speaking to you very, very soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlo.